The next artist that we are going to look at is another Ninja Turtle, Raphael. So Raphael was also considered a Renaissance man. He was able to do multiple things, but he's best known for painting. And this is one of his better known paintings, the Madonna of the Goldfinch. And so I'll break this up for you a little bit. First of all, we have the shape of a triangle that repeats multiple times in the three figures. And this is very common during the Renaissance to have this triangular shape. So there's the major triangle, that's easy to see, but then we have another triangle here, we have another triangle here, and the more you look, the more triangles you will see. This is Mary and Jesus and John the Baptist. They were cousins and they were about the same age and they often played together. And I know that this is John the Baptist from what he's wearing. Mary is shown in blue, which is the most common color she'll be shown in because blue was the most expensive paint. I mentioned a while back that the blue is made from the lapis stone. So it has to be imported from Afghanistan. So it was more expensive than gold. So to honor Mary, we'll see her almost always with blue on. The other way this painting can be divided up is in all the figures here. In the front, we could say this is the foreground. Then behind that, we could say there's a middle ground where there's water and these very thin trees are. And then way in the background, we could say this is the background. So by having this and breaking it up like this, we can really say that now we have this real kind of depth into this painting, a perspective into this painting, and it becomes more and more believable as we move forward. But probably Raphael's most important paintings are those that he did in the Vatican. These are fresco paintings, and there are 4 of them. I have a video up in Blackboard on them, and they're between 1510, 1511 is this one, but actually the one I really want to focus on is this one called the School of Athens. Here we go. So also 1510, 1511. So this is in the Vatican, and in the Vatican we have Michelangelo that we'll look at in just a minute, and he's painting the Sistine Chapel. And he's a little bit older than Raphael, and Raphael is really taken by Michelangelo and really inspired by Michelangelo. And he actually includes Michelangelo here within the painting. But let's look at this first before we get into this. We have the Roman arches and the Roman coffers. We have these domes. This is Roman architecture. We have the depiction of Roman gods. And then all of these people here are representing philosophers from the ancient Greek and Roman world, except for the depiction of Michelangelo here and the depiction of Raphael himself, right? So, which the video shows you clearly. So, when we think of the Vatican, this is in Rome. It is the head building of the church. This is where the Pope is living. So the fact that Raphael is painting this painting that is making reference back to the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans and the idea of their philosophy and their math and their reasoning is a huge big deal, because it's saying that the church is accepting the rebirth of these other ideas. And this is fitting into what becomes known as humanism. So it's accepting this and saying that, yeah, it's correct. These ideas are correct. we have our two central figures here, the two central figures of philosophy of the ancient world. We have Plato here and Aristotle, two of the great thinkers of the ancient world, of the ancient Greek philosophy. And Plato was Aristotle's teacher, so right away we can tell which is which just because he's older. But we can also tell the division between these two, or who they are, from not only the books that they're holding, the books that they wrote, but how they're dressed. So Plato's ideas were more abstract, or ethereal, we could say. He wanted to say that truth went beyond what you actually just see in front of you, that things would be based mathematically, that there was a truth. Where Aristotle, on the other hand, wanted to observe the world and find the truth in the observation of the world. So there's a division between their concepts of philosophy. And then we have all these other people, Pythagoras and all these other people that you might have heard of, mathematicians and philosophers. And then, as I said, we have Raphael himself over here, a self-portrait. And what he's trying to say by including himself in this is that the artist is no longer a craftsman. The artist should be thought of as a great intellect, a great thinker, even an artist genius. And that is really where we get this idea from, is this time period in the Renaissance with these great artists like Da Vinci, Raphael, Michelangelo. These are the ones that we're going to say are the genius artists, because they have achieved this great ability in not only art but other things like music and poetry and science and all these other things. They are geniuses. And as I said, he includes also Michelangelo. Michelangelo was actually a very good poet. That's another thing he was very good at. He was very antisocial, we should say, and brooding, very inward turning. And he's shown that way here, deep in contemplation. So, and we'll get to him in just a minute. So, but please do make sure you go and you watch the video on this. It will walk you through a couple more of these figures and give you some more information. So now we'll get to Michelangelo. And Michelangelo, he was really good at a couple of things. I already said poetry. That's something he's not really known for, but he was a really good poet. But what he's known for is being an architect, a sculptor, and a painter. He didn't really like to paint, believe it or not, and he didn't really consider himself a painter. He really considered himself more of a sculptor. And that is what he trained as a young boy, was as a sculptor and as a carver here in carving marble. So he creates this piece. He creates 4 pieces called the Pietà. And the Pietà simply refers to Mary holding the dead body of Jesus. This is called the Pietà. And when Michelangelo created these images, this was a subject matter that really hadn't been explored that much. It was not the common way of depicting Mary and Jesus. So he creates this one circa 1500 when he's in his early 20s. And when he first created this, people couldn't believe that he had actually created it because it was so amazing. And he overheard some people talking about it and questioning whether or not Michelangelo had actually carved this. And he got so mad that he went back and he carved across the sash here, across Mary. Michelangelo created this. He regretted doing this, felt like it kind of took away from the sculpture, and this is in fact the only piece of art that he ever signed. But this is just so exquisite. Her face has this kind of, sadness to it, the way he's able to express that emotion in her, the way her garment is carved with these very deep undercuts is beautiful. But then the way he's able to make Jesus so he's just kind of slumping in her arms, the dead body, the weight of the body just there, the dead weight. It's really amazingly carved. And Michelangelo carved marble like no one else ever did, and probably no one else ever will. So normally when you're carving a three-dimensional object like this, you're going to be moving around the object and carving it from all sides. Michelangelo did not do that. It's like he was a laser cutter or something, and he just sliced off pieces and continued from front to back. And he said he could actually, when he was looking at the marble, he could see the three-dimensional form. And if you ever get to what's called the Academia, he has his images that are called the dying slaves, and he didn't finish them. So you really see how he's doing this process of like, it's just like he's just carving from front to back these images, and it's incredible. And in fact, this is also in the Academia in Florence, and there's a hallway close to this that has the dying slaves in it. This is his depiction of David. So we've seen the image of David already. Donatello did a depiction of David, and we have probably seen David more than that. I, off the top of my head, can't remember. So David, again, is the boy from the Israelites that goes out and he fights Goliath and he wins, and then he ends up becoming the king of the Jews. Okay, so there's the story of David. So Michelangelo is hired by the city of Florence to create this sculpture to sit on the top of one of the buildings. So Michelangelo, knowing that when you're standing on the ground and you're looking up a couple of stories, your perspective is very different than when you're looking frontally at things. So he tries to take that into consideration, or he does take that into consideration as he's carving this figure. So this is why when now we're looking at this frontally, we're not really looking at it the way he intended it to be looked at. And so this is why the head is a little big, the arm, the hand is a little big, because if you were under it looking up at it, it will look in perspective. He's got this amazing contrapposto that's going, amazing, head turned, beautiful piece. So when he finished this, it was just so beautiful that the people of Florence said, oh no, we can't put it up on the top of the building. We're going to keep it in one of our squares outside. And it sat there for a long time until it gets moved into this museum, the Academia. And that's where it is today. If you stand next to it, you're probably about up to here next to it. They've put it on the pedestal here like this to try to give you a little bit of that elevation when you're looking at it, that you're looking up at it, but certainly you're not looking up at it the number of stories that it was made to be looked up at.